And no disrespect to Matt Armstrong, I think he's doing amazing things. He's a great guy and all of that. Like, I also follow his videos, all good. But we just don't think it's safe.
Matt Armstrong didn't come from money. He started out in a damp English garage with a camera, a limited budget, and an obsession with cars that everyone else had written off. The lighting was bad. The budget was worse. But the work was real, and that authenticity built something no marketing department could manufacture: trust. Over several years, Armstrong turned that garage into one of the most watched automotive channels on YouTube. His formula was simple. Find a supercar that insurance companies had declared a total loss. Something with a bent frame, a caved-in roof, an interior that looked like a disaster zone. Buy it legally from salvage, and spend months bringing it back to life on camera. Every weld, every setback, every breakthrough, all of it filmed and shared with an audience that kept growing because it felt genuine. Ferrari became the centerpiece of the channel. Not just because of the spectacle of watching a wrecked prancing horse get rebuilt, but because Armstrong actually took the time to explain why these cars were engineered the way they were. The Italian design philosophy, the racing heritage, the specific decisions made decades ago that still dictated how a modern engine behaved, he covered all of it. Parents wrote in saying their kids had developed an interest in engineering just from watching. Some viewers went on to careers in the automotive industry. Armstrong had done something Ferrari's own marketing team struggled to do. He made an untouchable brand feel human. Then he bought a crashed Ferrari 296. The car had been involved in a high-speed accident. The previous owner had collected the insurance payout, and the wreck was sitting in a yard, heading for the crusher. Armstrong acquired it through his normal salvage channels, completely legally, and began documenting the restoration as he always had. His team sourced original factory components from suppliers around the world. They consulted specialists. They put in months of late nights to get the job done properly. When the finished video dropped, it was one of the biggest of his career. Millions of views. The comments flooded with people genuinely stunned by the quality of the work and the depth of the storytelling. The car had gone from a pile of expensive scrap to something extraordinary, and the audience responded accordingly. Ferrari's legal department, by all accounts, had a very different reaction. According to sources close to Armstrong and widely reported across automotive media, Ferrari's lawyers spent considerable time reviewing not just the 296 video, but his entire catalog. What they were looking for wasn't technical errors or safety concerns. It was brand exposure. Specifically, how their logo, their cars, and their identity were being used by someone who had never asked for permission and who was, by any measure, making a living from that content. Internal complaints apparently centered on what Ferrari described as unauthorized use of their protected identity. The logo appearing in thumbnails. The cars featuring in merchandise imagery. The argument that Armstrong's channel had grown, in part, because of Ferrari content, and that the company therefore had a stake in how that growth happened. Shortly afterward, serious legal pressure reportedly began. To understand why Ferrari reacts this way, it helps to understand how Ferrari sees itself. The company does not describe itself, in its own financial filings, as a car manufacturer. It describes itself as a luxury goods brand that happens to make cars. That isn't a throwaway line. It is the foundation of their entire legal strategy. Ferrari does not view free publicity the way most brands do. They view their image as a protected asset, something to be controlled absolutely, not borrowed casually. They have spent decades and enormous sums building one of the most recognizable identities in the world, and they have defended it aggressively at every turn. In 2020, they won a court case in Italy against a custom builder who had modified one of their cars so extensively that Ferrari successfully argued it damaged the brand's reputation. The court agreed. The ruling established something deeply uncomfortable for car owners everywhere. Buying a Ferrari does not mean you own it outright. The brand retains a form of interest in how the car is presented and marketed even after the sale. Ferrari has since used that precedent, and others like it, to pursue replica makers, independent merchandise sellers, advertising agencies, and content creators. Their position is consistent. The car and the brand are inseparable. The horse logo, the specific red, the silhouette of the body, these are not just design choices. They are legally protected assets. And if your content features them, in Ferrari's view, they have standing to act. For YouTubers and automotive creators, this represents a specific kind of threat. A restoration video is, by its nature, full of exactly the kind of imagery Ferrari considers proprietary. Logos in every shot, brand names in every title, and if the channel monetizes through ads, memberships, or merchandise, Ferrari's lawyers can argue that their protected identity is being commercially exploited without a license. This wasn't entirely new territory. Before Ferrari came for Armstrong, there was the Bugatti situation, and the car community remembered it clearly. A creator had purchased a totaled Bugatti Chiron and begun documenting a full restoration online. Bugatti, whose cars cost more than most houses, responded in a manner strikingly similar to what Armstrong would later face. Lawyers appeared. Concerns about brand image were raised. A lengthy dispute followed, largely conducted behind closed doors. The eventual settlement required the creator to alter or remove portions of his content. He was constrained in what he could publicly say about certain aspects of the car. It was, by most assessments, a straightforward win for the manufacturer, a company using its legal budget to achieve outcomes a court might never have awarded it. The precedent it set rattled people in the restoration and automotive content world. If a company can dictate how a creator discusses a car they legally purchased, the implications are significant. But most people in the community preferred to believe it was an isolated incident, a quirk, a one-off, unlikely to be repeated. Ferrari, reportedly, had been watching closely and drawing its own conclusions. The moment Armstrong went public, things moved fast. In a video that he later described as one of the most difficult he had ever made, Armstrong told his audience that a major car brand had sent serious legal threats targeting his channel. He was visibly careful about what he said, constrained by the legal situation in ways that were obvious to anyone watching. He didn't name Ferrari directly at first. He didn't need to. His audience already knew. He spoke about what was at stake: years of videos, the livelihoods of his team, and a creative career built entirely on legitimate work. The response was immediate and substantial. The video spread far beyond his usual audience. Other large YouTube creators, many of whom admitted they lived under the same quiet fear of exactly this kind of corporate action, began covering the story. The message that emerged across the community was consistent. If Ferrari could do this to Armstrong, someone who had spent years demonstrably helping the brand's public image, then no automotive creator was safe. A petition demanding that Ferrari engage publicly with the situation and cease legal pressure on Armstrong gathered hundreds of thousands of signatures within a week. These were not casual internet users. They were automotive enthusiasts, people who attend Ferrari events, visit the museum in Maranello, buy the merchandise, and watch the racing. Many of them had discovered the brand specifically through creators like Armstrong. Ferrari said nothing publicly. The silence, read against the backdrop of the dispute's scale and visibility, was widely interpreted not as innocence but as confirmation. What sources described as Ferrari's demands went well beyond any single video. The scope, as reported, suggested potential removal of a significant portion of Armstrong's entire Ferrari catalog, years of content that formed the commercial and creative backbone of his channel. For a creator whose professional identity was as deeply tied to that work as Armstrong's was, this was not an abstract legal matter. It was an existential one. Legal specialists in automotive intellectual property who reviewed the publicly reported claims described Ferrari's position as stretching well beyond what established IP law in most jurisdictions would typically support. The legal merits, in other words, were questionable. But the financial reality of defending against a corporation with Ferrari's resources is a different matter entirely. The cost of mounting a sustained legal defense, regardless of whether you would ultimately win, is enough to destroy most individual creators long before any verdict is reached. That asymmetry is precisely what makes these disputes so effective as a tool of corporate pressure. What Ferrari may not have anticipated is how clearly the community understood all of this, and how unwilling it turned out to be to simply move on. Armstrong had spent years acting as a bridge between an elite, often alienating brand and the millions of people who admire it from a distance. He made Ferrari accessible, He made it interesting. He documented its engineering with more genuine enthusiasm and depth than most official content the company produces. The audience that assembled around his channel was, in many respects, Ferrari's most engaged and passionate fan base. People who might never own the cars but who cared deeply about what they represented. By moving against him so aggressively, Ferrari managed something that its lawyers presumably did not intend. It made that entire community feel like adversaries. The corporation that sells aspiration had, in the eyes of millions of followers, become the villain in its own story. Whether Armstrong ultimately prevails in the legal dispute remains to be seen. But the broader question, about who gets to tell the story of a car, and whether a brand's reach extends beyond the moment of sale, is now very much in public view. And the public, it turns out, has a strong opinion.